Recording now.
Okay, thanks everyone. Let's see, our first order of business is to approve the minutes. Everyone got the minutes there?
Yes.
I can't approve them because I wasn't here.
So moved.
Actually, yes, you can.
I can?
Yeah, you're just making the motion.
Yeah, you're
I can make a motion, I certainly can't approve it. If I can, that would be ridiculous.
You've been seconded.
Anyway, we're done, I think, so that's fine. We're going to talk a little bit about sustainable Connecticut, but I don't think Duncan's on yet, is he?
No.
So we'll pass over on that. Let's see, the number one, update on the business holiday gathering, we'll have to pass on that.
Why?
Isn't that going to be mayor as well?
That's me.
Just you? Excellent.
No,
Proceed.
actually, it was really an offering from Jason at Trinity to host something
Right.
for the town, and so we'll have a holiday gathering there. And I think it's going to be nice for the Cornwall business community or community as such, because so many people are involved in their own businesses. To have a get-together, to celebrate the town, to celebrate the businesses. So that will take place December 14th, which is a Thursday, 6 till 8.
And what do you think he's serving, cider or?
They'll do it all
Oh,
around.
sure, do that?
Yeah, we don't have to do
But it's
it.
an EDC sponsored event.
We don't have to pay, they just do
Fine.
it. We're just collaborating with
Oh,
them,
okay.
It's kind of
Okay.
nice,
That's very nice.
Also for them to sort of like show themselves off as opening their doors to the public. Because really in years past, it's always been very reserved. So
Right.
they'd like to embrace
And they
and
need to
collaborate
go out and
with,
that's
yeah,
great,
and they really want
And they are working on it.
Yeah, no, and I always collaborate with them.
Okay, well,
So it's a business development event that we don't have to do anything for.
Exactly.
Except
Isn't
show
that
up.
lovely?
No,
Wow.
and it's a free ride.
Well, I don't know, maybe they want to say sort of in collaboration with or something.
Yeah.
So there's a little context to it. 'Cause
Yeah, we should turn that.
It's like-
Well, and I had hoped that, Duncan could talk about the sustainable Connecticut briefly, like sort of demystify it there. But maybe if we can have in November, they'll be around,
Right,
and we can attempt to do that. Just to have like a brief
yeah, I agree.
introduction as to what that could be.
And
for
where we
us.
are, because we've had several presentations.
Right. So that was my thought. I'm telling Jason Coppola will just give a little brief overview of Trinity, what their mission is, and other than that.
Well, maybe it could also be a bit of a cheerleading,
Mm-hmm.
event, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's meant to be celebratory, it's a gathering. there's
I think it's
no-
good, because we also have the festival of the lights, around, when they turn on the lights. Gary, when are the lights going on?
We're not sure. We're targeting probably the first weekend in December. We're still installing.
Pretty much right on top. So we'll have two holiday type events, which will be terrific. I'm jumping a bit here, and I guess Mayor was going to be trying to find the carol singers.
Yeah, no, I don't think she's.
One thought I had was in here. Carol Goodfriend is on part of a choral singing group.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone reached out?
But Indian Mountain, they must have,
Indian Mountain, probably. Yeah, probably the school.
right, the choir, right? It was a choir.
I know David Cavalier is the one that I think who's kind of leading the charge for the choir at the library,
Mm-hmm.
tree lighting there, and I think he's gathered, 6 to 10 different Cornwallians to participate, so perhaps we could work with that group as well.
So there's going to be a third party at the library, is it?
Yeah, I think there's at least I've attended the last couple of years that Christmas tree lighting and caroling event at the library. I believe it's usually the first Sunday in December. I think it's going to be that Sunday, December 4th or 5th. Third.
Boy, we're going to be hoarse. Okay, well, I think that's good news all around. Hang on, who have we got here? still in, all right, so,
Okay,
Hello.
hi folks,
Hey, Priscilla, how are you?
from meeting to meeting.
Yeah, busy.
There we
Can I
go,
sit next to you?
please.
the city that never sleeps.
We're just getting through the regular new business, Gordon. Gary, do you want to just talk about the budget, any changes?
Yes,
You need to
update
go
on
to
the
the-
budget is, we have 6,500 of which we have spent to date, 362, and we've approved for next Cornwall Day 2,000, so that we should consider encumbered funds,
Yep.
leaving us with 4,138 in our budget.
Was the Cornwall Day money actually approved or suggested? I didn't know we could actually vote to approve that.
We had approved that. but-
If we did,
It was at last month's meeting.
And that includes the anti-your bill for reprinting matters, right? Okay.
Correct.
Good. The update of the Cornwall Business Directory, Bianca, that's done?
That's,
and
yeah,
paid
that's
for
done,
now?
and that should be in the Chronicle this month, and I have to say, Susan Francisco was very extremely helpful. She went with a fine tooth comb through the whole thing and edited things, and, yeah, otherwise, yeah, there would have been a few boo-boos. And, she was amazing.
We should thank her.
There were, yeah, big shout out to her, she was.
Good for her.
She caught a lot of things, I mean, because I've seen it so many times, I just glaze over it, you know? You don't catch all those unusual things, and she was pretty good.
Thank you for taking the lead on it. Good for her. All right, Oscar, your idea of sort of an ad hoc advisory group? Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of an update other than people seem to really like the idea, the
Yeah.
concept. I think execution is probably a little more challenging. Some questions were asked about, well, isn't that what the EDC is supposed to do? I mean, I get that, but I think the follow-on question is, should it be sort of an appendage of the EDC, or should it be completely separate? And then it suddenly sort of mushroomed into more sort of structural and, do you want to actually organize into an event, into an actual group that is responsible, and people like the advice you're giving them? Are you liable? I mean, it sort of went down that road,
Right.
and then sort of stalled out because I didn't really want to unpack all that.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of people that are willing. A lot of people have opinions, and some of those people with opinions actually have expertise. And if we could somehow bottle that up and use it to our advantage, that's the idea.
I think it's an excellent, there's a lot of talent on this
Yep.
EDC, and I think there are a lot of very active members this year.
And-
And we should make that available to people. I don't think EDC as a group necessarily needs to do it, but if someone calls out and, wants to know something about, running.
Well, it's sort of like I was sort of trying to think about like what's a real life example. It's sort of like peer counseling,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And so you have an approved, people agree to be on the list.
Yeah.
You may never get a phone call,
Right.
but you're an expert in legal, you're an expert in accounting, you're an expert in finance, you're an expert in ESG, you're an expert in construction. I don't know. So that's kind of where I landed, and that's where
I think it's actually terrific. If we can all agree to that, I think we ought to make sure that people know that members of the EDC, to the extent they're willing, are willing to offer their advice.
Well, as I listen to the agenda here, the business directory is probably,
Yeah.
there's something to do there as well. Even if you're I wish I could remember his name. The gentleman who came and spoke to us from the Iron Bank, the manager.
Ron Brown.
Lovely. I thought he was a great, he's been a great citizen. He's been a great contributor. Can he, in his role, actually provide advice? I don't know. But if he was willing to, he's the type of person that to put a check next to his name and say, if you're interested, if you need some advice on financing,
Right.
capital raising, here's your guy.
It's the sort of thing we can announce in one of these round table meetings.
And then, I guess the next step would be to get people to sort of put the word out, to get people to raise their hand and sort of say, I'm comfortable talking about A, B, and C.
Right.
Yeah, compiling a list,
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very excellent idea.
email addresses. much like a business director.
And then it becomes up to the two parties to put
Right.
themselves together, and then we kind of take ourselves out of it.
Duncan has appeared.
Ah.
Hi, Duncan.
Duncan,
Barely.
we're told you're lurking on
There
there
you go.
somewhere. Duncan, are you in a position to talk about sustainable CT?
He's on mute.
He's frozen.
Doesn't look like it.
Some body interests.
I would say no.
No, I have to agree with that.
Not quite.
All right, well, we're holding off on that. Carol Singer's with
Oh, he is.
Duncan?
Here I am.
Super, are you ready to talk about giving us an update on sustainable CT?
Yes, I'd love to do that.
Sure. The screen and the forum is yours.
So I'm not going to, I'm just going to keep on audio here, just to keep it simple. But I wanted to relate to the group. I had a couple more conversations with Kate, and we've been sort of thinking and talking about what the EDC can do relative to sustainable CT. And there are several elements to this. The first is, this sort of continuing effort to reach out to the business community, Cornwall, to see what they want. I think we need to continue to do that. I know it's been sort of difficult and a little bit frustrating to this point, but I think we need to continue the roundtables and these efforts to try and be good listeners to the business community. But I think another part of that strategy is that we should see if we can accomplish a couple of things that will make the local business community more willing to engage with us. So we need to find a couple of things where we know we can provide direct benefits to the business community and advance those ideas. So one of those is everything around purchasing and the idea of sustainable purchasing and kind of joint purchasing. So the sustainable purchasing, this may be a bit of a longer term issue and it's a bit sort of politically fraught, but I think at some point we should ask Board of Selectmen to consider some kind of a resolution about encouraging Cornwall-based businesses to make purchasing decisions that are for sustainable products. So recent history in Cornwall that Kate told me about was apparently it wasn't too long ago the fire department was using some sort of terrible toxic thing to do something, and we sort of somebody sort of figured this out and helped them find a more environmentally friendly product and sort of made that. So I think the idea is to kind of use sustainable CT to help promote the idea of encouraging local businesses to purchase products that are environmentally friendly. But the more compelling thing that will encourage businesses to join with us is if we can help them with their purchasing, particularly to reduce their costs. And one example that came to light was apparently there has been a fuel co-op, and I can't quite figure out when the last year it was when it was operating. Maybe somebody there knows that. The last brochure I found.
It's currently.
It's still going.
Still going, right. So I think there's potentially an opportunity to promote the fuel co-op with more businesses, in particular in Cornwall. I reached out to, is it Rick Waltowitz who still runs it?
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware that this existed. So it seems like a great thing and something that we could promote to local businesses because apparently the fuel co-op is a way to reduce fuel costs. And is it correct to say that you don't have to be a business to be a part of the co-op? Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And anyone can really partake in it.
Right. So what a great thing. I'm sad that it took me 20 years in Cornwall to realize that this existed, but so be it. But I think maybe if we did a bit of promotion around it to see if we can
sort of build the co-op. And then, you know, the way these things work is the more people that we have participating, the better price we can theoretically negotiate on behalf of the co-op members. The second idea that's been sort of floating around is to look at the work that's being done by Cornwall Consolidated School on their upcoming energy consumption and monitoring efforts. That was something we talked about last spring and summer. What I gather from Kate is it's all kind of been pushed aside for the moment while they go through some leadership changes at the school. So nothing's happening there, but we kind of need to sort of pay attention to that and at the right time get re-involved in that effort to see if we can learn from what they're doing and how we can take the lessons that they're learning to apply to other businesses around Cornwall. The other thing that I learned talking to Kate is that there is a placemaking project which has been discussed off and on for several years, and I'm not exactly sure why it qualifies as a sustainable CT project, but it does. I mean, placemaking is one of the objectives of sustainable CT.
What is placemaking? I'm sorry.
So the idea is just being intentional about making a place attractive to people. Right? Just that's but it'll make more sense when I describe the specific opportunity.
Yeah.
Because apparently there has been discussion about trying to address the access, parking, and signage in Cornwall Bridge, essentially from the hardware store to Richard's outlet. And a fellow by the name of, Terry Burke, who lives in Cornwall, has been sort of championing this idea. It made a little bit of progress, but now it seems to have sort of fallen by the wayside. But in talking to Kate, it strikes me as a really fantastic opportunity for us to try and do something that helps businesses who are based in Cornwall Bridge and also encourages more businesses to locate there. So the essential elements of the plan would be to work with the property owners and the state to do essentially some urban design along the side of the road that creates one sort of common parking area that goes all the way from the package store to the hardware store, that improves the access off the road into those parking lots, that adds signage that promotes and advertises the businesses located all along there. And the kicker that does relate to sustainability, CT, is to add charging stations. And I think there has been enough discussion around this that it might be something worth exploring. I don't know if Richard is there this evening. Is he with us?
He is.
I'm right here.
So Richard, have you been aware of this discussion, and what did you think of it all?
Well, there's been a lot of things proposed over the last X number of years of different designs in Cornwall Bridge. I have been somewhat limitedly impressed by any of them. I'm not impressed by most of them at all. I think they create a strip mall parking area that is not the way you want to go, not the way I want to be. So I know that that's the wrong opinion, but I'm not a strong proponent of very limited accesses in a giant parking lot from my store down to the hardware store, which is really what's being proposed. I would be, I would be at the dead end.
Right. So I think it's in fact the opposite that we're hoping for. We want to have improved access. We want to have safer access from the road. We want to have things that encourage people to get out of their cars and potentially visit multiple businesses. We want to have parking that encourages the location of new businesses there. So I'm sure there are 100 different ways it could go wrong, but I would like to propose to the group that we see if we can sort of put a group together, including Richard, that might sort of explore the opportunity in a little bit more detail. And I think in talking to Kate, what that probably means is that we need to get with the COG director to sort of figure out what resources are available. Because what I'm told is that theoretically there is sort of fairly significant state resources that could be brought to bear on the project. But I think the first thing to do is to determine if in fact it's something that is wanted by current businesses and is believed by us and others to be attractive to new businesses, that we believe it serves our objectives in making Cornwall Bridge kind of a commercial hub for our community, and that we can do things like add charging stations to it, which sort of satisfy the sustainable CT objectives.
Gary?
Duncan, have you or anyone had discussions of these ideas with the Board of Selectmen?
No.
It sounds as if several of these ideas have already been floated and discussed at the BOS. I think they would be a very important party to this, if not a leader, more so than the EDC, as this is involving both state and private land. Yep, good idea.
I must say, I found that junction.
But when I also think Janet Carlson had worked on a plan to redesign the Triangle and Cornwall Bridge, so you might want to reach out to her.
Right. I've heard reference to the triangle redesign as sort of an associated project. To me personally, I'm less interested in that because I don't think it has necessarily the same benefit to Cornwall Bridge businesses, but it maybe becomes part of a larger package of efforts.
And Duncan, I do have to say that I'm kind of referring to the triangle redesigns, and when I was saying I was less than enthusiastic about. I'm not sure about whatever plan you're specifically saying that does not include a triangle redesign. I haven't seen that, so I'm less familiar with that. I've just seen several reincarnations of somehow making the triangle differently, a different configuration, and I haven't been really impressed with most of those.
Chris, did you want to?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question about, did that plan include, or the new parking layout include the plan for the middle triangle there? And thinking about Will and his new store and market, right, which is going to encourage grab-and-go sandwiches and hopefully bring great foot traffic or traffic through, what's the plan, in place for people to go and enjoy a sandwich sitting outside, right? Is there an area designated next to the store the way it used to be? Or do we ever want to encourage people to actually go into that triangle, put a couple picnic tables there, and let people sit outside? So maybe there was plans for that or not. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No one wants to answer that one.
Yeah, I think it's
The hopes and dreams of the Cornwall Bridge Triangle are well traveled.
Gordon, hasn't there already been investigation about putting charging stations down there?
Yeah, a couple of things about it. I've worked with Will Shank, and we've rewired, I think he's incorporated the idea of putting a charging station into the new market. So that is pretty well underway. We've explored whatever grant opportunities there are with utility companies to do that, as well as Frank's, or the new to-be restaurant in West Cornwall, putting both of those charging stations in. We had a consultant come in who apparently has done this in other towns. So I think those are pretty well underway. There are certain grant cycles that are going to sort of depend. It's going to depend on the grant cycle. It's also going to depend on getting these businesses established, which in my mind is the top priority, is to actually get the restaurant going again in West Cornwall and get the store open in Cornwall Bridge, which I know that there are Builders Supply lumberyard, which will be a huge economic driver to Cornwall Bridge. So between Will's Chocolate and a new lumberyard, that's going to be a big deal in Cornwall Bridge. In my mind, it's important to get those projects up and running. We did apply for a crosswalk between the market and the lumberyard. That, as far as going back to the triangle, the state is not going to allow a lot of pedestrian traffic where there's not a crosswalk. So we have incorporated, and it's tricky there because of the geometry, but it is possible, and we have applied for a crosswalk between those, as well as a sidewalk, expanding the sidewalk in Cornwall Bridge. So those are some little infrastructure stuff that's already underway. The big redesign thing hasn't been broached yet. Thinking the top priority is to actually get the businesses going. So but I'm pretty sure we'll see some charging stations again at the top of the list of things to do within the next year. So that's a short answer to the long question.
Right. But just let's recognize that this idea that we're floating, this is a multi-year effort.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal.
It's fundraising, if I may, it's fundraising, first of all, to kind of commission a study that sort of figures out what is a good plan that engages current businesses there in helping to craft that plan and the design that works for them. Then there's a whole round of sort of design work for any sort of funding of larger projects and coordination with various agencies. So, I certainly recognize the priorities that Gordon is speaking of, but I don't think that should preclude an effort to start thinking about this as a longer-term project for Cornwall Bridge.
I think you could make it visually more appealing if there was sort of a cohesiveness of that, just side, from Richard, almost like the Granite Place, past yours, all the way over to the hardware store. Just in appearance and then landscaping to make it just more visitor friendly. So where people go, wow, I want to get right here,
Well,
That kind of
if we are if the lumber store is going to be building up a large building, there's going to be a big building available. Which the use of that building will also impact this, as I say.
I mean, ultimately, what we need are more businesses in those buildings.
Yeah, open businesses. To
Right.
your point, as you heard from
They are.
many weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
All right. Well, thank you, Duncan. That's a good point. Anything else you want to add?
No, just so with your blessing, at the next meeting, maybe I'll sort of canvass a few more people, learn a little bit more about the history and background of the project, and report back at the next meeting.
Right. Duncan, so we talked about briefly that we'll have a holiday gathering at Trinity, and I thought it might be nice if you could put something together at that meeting to briefly talk about the sustainable CT as part of what we've been working on, or what you've been working on, essentially.
Sure. When's that?
That is
December
December 14th, 6 to 8. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Great.
Cool.
Thank you, Duncan.
Okay.
Jane, do you want to talk about the community network link?
I just have one brief comment to make about the community network, which is that it's on the town website. And I think it's fine that it exists in some, I don't think it's appropriate that it's on the town website. It's not a town-sponsored thing. And anybody can join it, anybody can speak on it, I think that's fine. But I think from an EDC point of view, that we do the town a disservice by airing all of our comments on the town website. The people who find it will find it, but I don't think we need to be sponsoring it in effect. That's just my opinion. The reason I say that is I've been spoken to by several people who have said things to me like, gee, if I had seen this, I would think twice about trying to do something here. So I think we do ourselves a disservice. I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I think there are a lot of people who do get a lot of good information out of it, and they can continue to do so, but I don't think we need the link on the town website.
Can you help us? I mean, I think there is a little confusion of the websites.
Well, there's the
And then
.org site, and there's the .com site.
And then we've got Cornwall EDC website.
Right, which is the .com.
Right.
Both of those are, you know, they represent the town to the public.
Right.
And they serve different purposes, and I think they're fine. The Cornwall Community Network is neither of those. It's a private group that people can join. And I think a lot of people do find it useful and enjoy being part of that conversation, which is great. But I think it's a mistake for the town to be sponsoring it on our website, just because it's, you know, it's not a curated selection of what we want to put forward in terms of, this is what people see when they are thinking, gee, I'd like to move somewhere, they look at the town website and this is what they see. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's really not great.
Yeah.
And I just think it's not necessary. I don't see the argument for linking it to the town website.
Jane, it's really not the town website. So the Cornwall.org website is a website that was created by the Cornwall Community Network? No, what was it?
Cornwall Association.
Yeah, the Cornwall Association sponsored it.
But isn't the Cornwall Association a town?
No.
No.
Oh, it's not?
No,
Okay.
no. That came out of a forum that Will Calhoun had held 20 or some years ago at the school. And so the Cornwall Association came out, no, he was part of the Cornwall Association and they created that. And then out of that, we had the website committee that established itself. We had an association of businesses that established itself, and various other things. And the website committee is still alive, and that's what hosts really the website and that forum. And that's shifted and changed.
Should be the town website, let me put it that way. Whether
Right.
it is or not, it certainly has an appearance of being.
Well, that's a pretty big disclaimer.
Right.
Pretty big disclaimer. It says
Right,
we're not
which
responsible.
if you're looking at the town, what's the first thing you're going to put?
Well, right.
A disclaimer.
But it is also, I actually don't disagree with you, but it is password protected. I mean, you do have to do, you know, it's not like you
Yeah, you
can,
have to join it.
you have to join it.
Yeah.
But I don't,
And you
that's
still could join it. I guess what I'm saying then, your point is well taken, that the Cornwall website, if you're saying it's not in fact the Cornwall website, it certainly has all, it looks, smells, sounds like, tastes like a Cornwall website.
I think that's a bit of a fun.
So for intents and purposes, it is the Cornwall.
Who owns the
website.
community?
It's not really.
Who's responsible for it?
So I think it still might be worth it to separate those two things. The rest of the website, I wouldn't say there's anything else on the website that falls in that category.
So as there's a committee that runs the website, you can direct your comments
To them.
to them. I mean, you're not the first person that's mentioned. It's not a really great, it's not a really great.
Available at their meeting times, but
I mean, just don't. Here's another person saying this isn't great publicity.
Yeah.
Right.
that doesn't help. All right, well, I will speak to them then at the next meeting.
Okay, so you'll follow up,
Because I think we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah. Agree. Okay, and then you obviously had a very successful Clearway Drill. Congratulations.
We had a fantastic turnout. I mean, it was just mobbed. And such enthusiasm and positive feedback, and money changed hands in many places, and it's just grown really exponentially. So that was a big success.
What do you attribute that to? Good advertising?
A
Word of mouth?
lot of hard work.
I'm sorry.
We did make a big effort to get the word out. You know, we print a lot of flyers and distribute them. We put up a lot of signs, and next year we'll put up more. We got a fair bit of press, a little bit of paid advertising, mostly some paid advertising. Mostly we were able to get some good press. I got it listed in Litchfield Magazine, Things to Do, whatever, 50 Things to Do or something. Gave us a nice shout out with a picture. That certainly helped. And then each of the participating Potters sends an invitation to their mailing list, so you multiply, you have 23 mailing lists. There's a fair bit of overlap, but nonetheless, those all go out. So, and I think it's also grown because it's now, people are now beginning to recognize that every fall on that weekend there's this event. So it was very positive, and just to tie in with that, not that Playaway was counted as this, but I did see a notice from, what is it, Northwest Arts Council, was that what it is? And they put out something that their figures for the year of 2022 was that, arts and arts-related things brought into the Northwest corner $30 million worth of activity or some crazy amount of money like that. And I think, the arts do have the potential to bring people together to do things. And I mean, we've got people from far and wide. We've had people coming from Boston, plenty from New York, from Hartford, from Rockland County, people came. I mean, people came from all over, from upstate, Massachusetts ways. And the reason I mention that about the arts is just as a kind of spin-off idea to tie back into Cornwall Day, that the arts do bring people together, and that maybe if we let it evolve more into a little bit more of an arts festival. It can just generate activity, bring people, which may not be immediate economic development, but in the big picture leads to a more vital.
No, I entirely agree. I'm sure you've done it. Can you debrief with Neil and Mayor on this? Because, maybe...
Yeah, I've actually spoken with Mayor about it.
Good.
And Neil was very generous, as always, about posting our little page name. Come to see us. But it was a big success. So.
And the weather was so good too.
It wasn't great. It rained on Saturday, and we had to move everybody in. I had to empty my entire studio ahead of time.
Good party weather then.
Well, I wanted to be ready. I had 3 guests, and I wanted space for them, so I had to empty the whole thing. And then sure enough, it rained, and we had to move in. But it could have been much worse, let's put it that way. It didn't pour all day. Right?
Good.
So it was good.
Oh, thank you. Chris, do you want to talk about the music festival, the Spring Music Festival you're thinking about?
Sure. Sticking with the theme of the arts, which I 100% agree in everything you're saying. And I think maybe to call it a festival is strong, but and talking also with Eric Tietz, and thinking about this spring with hopefully the opening of the Pink House and the restaurant, using music as a way to bring people to West Cornwall this spring, utilizing a couple of open spaces in West Cornwall. You've had music obviously on your lawn before. So the idea would be you maybe have a stage or area where artists are performing on your lawn. We utilize the lawn at Three Guys, right there in the back. Maybe we utilize the space next to the library, and think about an afternoon of programming that would kind of artists, you have maybe 5 to 8 artists that would perform over the course of an afternoon, and just encourage people to go see different artists and walk around, right? And again, there's a lot of planning that would need to go into it, but I think that we definitely could find the right musical talent. It wouldn't have to be a big spend in terms of the musical talent. Private production would be more of the spend. But it's something that I would love to undertake and start to lay out for everybody if everybody's kind of on board with it.
Fabulous. What sort of timing would you think?
I mean, I would say spring, right? And so, but I try
June.
I was Cornwall spring comes with.
June, July.
Right. April. Yeah, I think, I can look into that. I don't know, is there, when will we know when the Pink House will open in March? So, so it would be after both of those things are kind of up and running, right? Because I want to maximize the foot traffic for everybody. And so that's the first one, and then sticking with the arts too. The 12 Days of Christmas, to me, has still been the most, my favorite event that I've been to in the 4 years that I've lived here in Cornwall, especially with the 8-year-old son at CCS. Him and his friends, they love doing it, right? We're there on that opening night. We always go back another night. And so I'm not sure who, I know Bianca, you're a big part of it, right? Because it launches.
Yeah, but we're not doing it this year. I mean, I was really, because Bill McLean was the essential person there, and since he's back working full-time again, you know, during COVID, he had nothing better to do than to, you know, turn our town upside down, whereas now he has to, yeah, he has to work again, so he could not lend his time. And I usually go away at this time of year, and when I come back, I don't have the time to organize anything.
So right now, there's no plan to do it?
Nothing. I'm so sorry, I know.
Do you want to do it?
Want to do it?
I mean, I would love to talk to you and Bill about I just think it's one of the most beautiful, like, I mean, to me, it just is such
Right.
a
Oh, yeah.
wonderful spirit and community builder.
Mhm.
And I think for young families in the northwest corner, yeah, I don't know. And I think working with local artists to transport each of those different, windows, into these great little capsules of art. Yeah, I would love to. Maybe I'll set up time. Bianca, I'll come down to the Wish House and
Yeah,
get a
do
little
it
more
this
background.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can do it this week.
Yeah.
I can do it this week.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be a great shame to let that go. I think,
Yeah,
I
no,
appreciate
we
the
can
mechanical problems, but,
something
what's,
And it could be really 12 days of Christmas, even if it takes place a little bit later in December. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, I mean, it gives me a little bit of time, because I'll be away from the 28th till the 16th. Yes.
Yeah.
But if,
Okay.
in the meantime, we can sort of reach out to our local artists and just get them reignited, I think that would be good. Because Bill really did most part of it. Bill and Glory just
Okay.
were the heart of the whole thing, with the installations and all of that, so, and that's a lot. So do talk to Bill too,
Yeah,
because he
I
can
will.
give you a lowdown on what is needed, and that way you have a better idea.
Great.
well, thank you, Chris, I appreciate you taking that on.
Good. Yes, you got it.
Gordon, do you want to give us your quick update?
Let's see. Well, I think I
That you have
spilled the
covered?
beans on the Cornwall Bridge excitement of the lumberyard, but that will be a big deal. And again, getting Will's store open is a big deal. We're still plugging away through our federal regulations on the wastewater plant thing, and I think that's about it for now. Still, I missed what else we got going on economic.
Not enough.
You've got quite a lot of construction going, I think.
So-
in town.
Is there a projected date for Will's store now? Open?
I've heard November, but
And what about the wastewater project? I mean, where are we now with it, and in terms of like the timeline to the possible,
so where we are now
structure
is because
existing?
where we are now is because we got a $3 million grant. We have to comply with all the federal regulations associated with getting federal money. And part of the federal government does not want to give money to a project that is harmful to the environment. So we had to have an independent environmental review done of the project. So that has happened. Now we have to format it in a way that's acceptable to the federal government in order to publicize the report. And that has taken a while to get on the right federal platform, which seems amazing, but Jane and I probably had conversations weekly, if not daily, with engineers, with housing and urban development people. So once we get the permission to go to publicize the independent environmental analysis, we will have completed the 8-step process. And then the federal government will look at the comments generated by the environmental report, and after they digest the environmental comments, then we will be able to request a release of funds, and once we do that, we can start the design phase. So we're hopeful that can happen. We can wrap this federal review up in 2023 and start the design in 2024. And once we get that green light, then the committee goes back to work, the engineer goes back to work, and that should get things going. But it's why, you know, we've lost a bunch of time just because that's what it takes when you hear strings attached. These have been major amounts of work that have to be done in order to meet the federal requirements.
Yeah, well, it's good to know because, you know, I sit there, especially during the foliage season, there's so many visitors coming that are coming back year after year, that because we don't have a coffee shop, we don't have a place people can use as a bathroom in West Cornwall, the comments that I get daily are just, it's tiring. It's really tiring. And I often don't, you know, I can't explain anything to them other than there are regulations and people are, that's bogging things down in terms of, you know, for a small town that is so beautiful. I mean, West Cornwall is, I mean, it's quintessential New England town. And so people, of course, do question, why isn't there more going on? Why isn't there a cafe? You know, when you travel to Europe, that's what you find, a little cafe down by the bridge, here, there, and you know, you get all these tourists, and you just sometimes, I'm like at a loss, you know, what to say anymore, you know, and it's painful to me. And it's exhausting, too, to constantly get bombarded with these questions, because they happen several times a day.
Hopefully the pink house is going to.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, there can be coffee shops, you know, before this happens, or there will be things.
Right.
Again, the whole economics
Right.
of running businesses here are almost more of an issue than the lack of the sewer plant at this point, because the pink house facility is set up to be independent of that thing. There will be major disruption of life in West Cornwall for the year of construction it will take. So, I mean, the good news is that if the economics work out there, that's designed to come online before. But again, but those businesses have to be supported and viable.
Well, they have to be open during the day, you know.
Well, I mean, again, that's easy to say, but the economics have to work for that entrepreneur to take it on.
That's interesting. I spoke with Bruce down at Bluegate Farm, and they are busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're doing very, very well. Their products are wonderful, really good, and they tried being open Thursday, you know, in an attempt, and nobody came. I mean, just dropped. So they would have liked, you know, they were going, their hope was to work towards being open more days. And economically for them, and it's not the fault of their product, they can't swing more than Friday, Saturday, Sunday in terms of the business they get. In other words, people go on the weekend.
Right.
And not enough people go during the week to be viable for them, at least at this point. So that's the same thing that somebody's up against, is enough people coming during the week, you know, to keep things open.
But what can change that is having a more vibrant Cornwall Bridge with businesses and people stopping.
Well, I think the more businesses we have, we all support each other. In other words, if every business is down there, we're full. If every one of those buildings are full, it'd be good for everybody.
Exactly.
It's hard to define why some businesses are successful and some aren't. Whether it's the ownership, the business plan, the model, the product, the personality. You know, if you add a day or remove it, if you add a day, you got to be willing to not be successful for a while till people catch on that you're actually open an extra day or two, or that you're even open at all. If a place opens, just because you open it when Will finally opens, yes, there'll be business, but it's going to take quite a while for people to realize, oh, wait a second, he's open. That place is open, I can get coffee there now, or I can get a sandwich. It's not going to be like instant. There'll be a bunch of instant, but you have to be able to sustain it for a while you're attempting to open.
I think that's a real challenge for, I mean, you're going to have two businesses open up, in theory, you know, a major one in West Cornwall, a major one or two in Cornwall Bridge, and be able to sustain those markets, those food places. They're going to rely on people outside of town. They're going to have to rely on people in town supporting that. And I think, you know, again, people are going to put a lot of time, energy, and money into making these things work. And,
Yep.
you know, and again, bringing on more bakery things in a small town. I mean, how many
Yeah.
bakery places or coffee places selling coffee can the town sustain? And again, because they can be brought in on different times, and I think there's real potential, but there's got to be there's got to be an acceptance of more traffic and more people coming in to sustain these places. And I think a real boost to, you know, thank the people that are willing to put it on the line to try to make these things happen.
Totally agree.
And the help to run it all.
Yeah, I mean, that was,
And you have to have staff to
Correct.
help staff.
I think that's going to be a big deal. I mean, there was I listened to a speech given by somebody in Berkshire County administrator or economic development person up there, and they said they felt that the number one challenge for Berkshire County businesses is housing. That they put that right out there. It's number one thing of getting people nearby to work. There's just not a workflow. I've talked to businesses here that, I mean, say it's acute shortage of skilled workers.
The school has the same problem, but I mean, a lot of the teachers have to live somewhere else other than in the immediate area. I mean, I was talking with, what is her name, Candy Carlson, at the kindergarten teacher. And I mean, I was astounded what she felt was affordable, because it's just, the rental prices are just so jarring for someone, you know. And you can actually save, you know, if you don't have to travel so far, you save in gasoline, you know. And I think it would be really beneficial if we could keep, we talked about that last time, I think at the meeting, keep people closer to home and create those opportunities.
Which means affordable housing.
Right.
That's what that means.
So on that, I met the Commissioner of Housing last night at another meeting. Maggie Cooley got a Lifetime Achievement Award as a housing advocate, and the Commissioner of Housing did say they're going to do partial funding for the Powder Woods housing project up on Town Street. It's only 2 units, but it's a start. And it was interesting to see that, and we're trying to publicize it more, that there was Jocelyn Air, who ran the event, went through the efforts that I think 15 towns, almost every town around us, including Cornwall, is doing work on different things, and highlighted what they're doing. Kent has a really active program. Salisbury's doing a lot of stuff. Falls Village, Sharon, I mean, they're all doing stuff, and the state is stepping up to do some funding. And there were other funding sources there. They were talking about private-public partnerships of doing housing. So it was interesting that the commissioner was there. It's the second time I've seen her in a neighboring town in a month. She's on here. Maria Horn said she had lunch with the governor, and housing was on the menu. And so there is a buzz, and there is some actual money being spent. The Housing Coalition of Litchfield County got $50,000 from JP Morgan Chase. So there is some of the local banks, hospitals are putting money into housing. It's interesting. So anyway, I think there is stuff moving. Of course, the interest rates are going up higher than anything. But anyway, there is a lot going on, and it was good to see at least some things are moving here. And I think the zoning commission is taking on the accessory dwelling units, which is probably the easiest way the town can bring on, if not technically affordable housing, more housing, small spaces for workforce, what I would call workforce housing. Letting people build an apartment over the garage or a detached accessory in your chicken coop in your studio, and you can put up an apartment.
Yeah.
There you
Somebody's living
go.
here.
You have somebody living there, you get, I mean, you have a lot of people, I mean, I think Richard knows, I mean, Richard has 2 accessory apartments that probably help pay for his store in his house. I mean, it's a wonderful economic model, and the demand for that type of housing, the amount of kids living with their parents or young people wanting to move here is huge.
Do you have a preview on the auction Friday?
The what?
The tax sale?
The tax sale?
Tax lien sales?
Tax liens on Friday, so again, there are people, yeah, I think there'll be a live auction, there has been interest. And what happens with those properties will be interesting to see how that all shakes out, but I think they're going to be sold.
So is that building now ever usable?
You'd have to put money into it, but
Is it a
Yeah.
place that you can use?
I think people have said you could rehab it. There's other people that do it for a living said they've seen a lot worse that have been come back.
I mean, that's a fantastic location.
The site is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be lovely for housing, I think, you know.
Yeah, with the area down by the
Nice.
road.
Yeah, how nice to, you
Yeah,
know,
behind me.
Yes.
One down
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Down the-
Or-
on the bank.
yeah. Artist housing.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I do feel a lot of good things happen. And again, I do want to commend the members of this commission for the effort they've really been putting into this. It's made a huge difference over the past couple of years. I think the only person of the public we have is Richard. Do you have any comments?
Not really, no, thank you.
All right, well, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I think it would be if, when the market opens in Cornwall Bridge, because that's such an important
Yeah.
place, it would be good to do some publicity on it. Should happen. I mean, not,
All we need is a date.
yeah, but again, just to put that in our
Yeah.
list.
And for us as a commission to show up and so on.
Could the town do some outreach? I mean, like, on a, yeah.
We need a date. We need a date.
Because, I mean, you know, because it's been shut for a whole year now. And that creates sort of like this negative advertisement for the area until people then come back and go, wow.
People
It
stop
takes
there
a
every day,
Yeah,
ready to shop, so.
right.
But I think just having support from this group, I think would.
I'm shocked at how many people I see from Cornwall when I go up to get a bagel or whatever around the various coffee shops and the other villages around here. I mean, there's a lot of demand if they can tap everything.
Yeah.
And people who want to get out of their own towns too and go somewhere else, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
that is a desire at times.
People want someplace where they can go and bump
Yeah.
into other people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or it's they want someplace.
Is it some?
There we go. Okay, I adjourn.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Richard.
You're welcome.